Hello everyone, welcome to another little update video. I just wanted to brief you on something I've been doing for quite a while now. Some of you know I've been working very closely with Jay of Jay's Reviews. He just hit 1.5k subscribers. Congratulations, Jay. You earned it, and especially after working so hard on this video. And the video in question is our Metal Gear Solid 2 analysis collaboration project, and we spent so much time working on just the script, and it really amounted to 72 pages, which resulted in a 1 hour and 40 minute Metal Gear Solid 2 analysis. So, if you're a fan of that game, or want to get into that game, it is spoiler heavy, I warn you, but it is amazing. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and I'm going to show a little clip of it. We spent a lot of time on it, and I think it was worth it.
After the huge hit that was Metal Gear Solid, Konami and Kojima had finally turned the Metal Gear series into a household name, and so with the release of the PS2 in the year 2000, it was only natural to expect a sequel. And in 2001, fans would deliver the long-awaited Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. With this being such a big game, I figured it was only natural to bring along a friend. Introduce yourself, good sir.
Hello everyone, Alec Elger the SideQuest Gamer here, and I will be joining Jay this time not as a 5-minute rant like last time, but for the entirety of this review because I believe that Metal Gear Solid 2 is an amazing game. And even though it has its fans out there, there are still detractors of the game who consider it to be one of the weaker Metal Gear games, so hopefully Jay and I can at least give these people an understanding of why people like us enjoy it as much as we do.
With that said, why don't you kick off this in-depth review with a brief summary of the development history of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Alright, I know this is so you don't have to do it yourself, but I'll pick up the slack and put on my historian glasses.
Well, someone has to do it, right?
To say that this game has an extensive development history would be the understatement of the 6th generation of console gaming.
As well as being one of the most highly anticipated games of all time.
Development began as a design document Hideo Kojima wrote in 1999 for plans for the second game, and it contained potential new features and game mechanics, mainly focusing on such aspects he wanted to incorporate into the stealth, like the need to hide enemy bodies, improve field of vision for the enemies, the ability to see the shadows of others, basically a desire to design the enemies as realistically as possible. Instead of acting individually like the previous 3 games, they would behave like an actual military squad. The document also focused on another aspect, that being the overall theme of the game, which this game being Metal Gear Solid 2 is definitely going to have many themes, but these themes all have something in common, that being digitization. From digital simulations to digitization of the military, and even how digitization affects the individual in today's society. Due to the first game being a massive hit on the original PlayStation, the sequel to this massive hit had a development budget of around $10 million. $10 million going to a sequel on a brand new console with exciting new capabilities the PlayStation 1 could only dream of. With this budget, Kojima wanted the game to show off the hardware, mainly with detailed environments and even little things like facial expressions. I mean, I love Metal Gear Solid 1, but facial expressions were something the character models lacked.
Despite the game on the PS2 running at a 480i resolution and a 4:3 aspect ratio, the original game still looked gorgeous, although more details on the graphics coming later. So just so you know, the majority of this video will be based on the HD remaster of Sons of Liberty via the HD collection, which contains this, the first 2 Metal Gear games, Snake Eater and Peace Walker. FYI, that's how I'll be looking at those games as well.
Anyways, even in development, the controversial decision that fans weren't aware of, sparking an outrage still somewhat existent to this day, Kojima wanted a new protagonist to be the star of the game. There were a few reasons for this change. 1. It wouldn't make much sense giving tutorials to a veteran warrior who has accomplished not 1, not 2, but 3 stealth missions previously. In fact, that'd be outright condescending to a warrior like Solid Snake. 2. Kojima and company had an idea of, what if the player witnessed Solid Snake being Solid Snake, as in having Solid Snake be in the eyes of another player. And 3. Apparently over at the development studio during production of the original Metal Gear Solid, female debuggers apparently didn't like Solid Snake being a rugged old man, so this new protagonist would appeal to the female demographic. Other things worth mentioning was how this game's plot was originally going to involve nuclear weapon inspections at Iraq and Iran, ran, but with the rising tension in the Middle East around that time, there would have to be some rewrites. There were of course characters that were written in concept to reference novel City of Glass, but then aspects of those proposed characters were absorbed into the characters we know in the game. There were even changes made to the ending, which I won't get into for spoilers' sake, but the changes were made in respect to America after the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center.
As established earlier, it can't be understated just how much this game was anticipated in the 3 years it took to come out. I'm going to say that that is crucial information to understand how and why fans reacted to Sons of Liberty the way they did for a whole 10 years before minds slowly started changing in 2011 with the release of the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. Since by that point we had a decade of retcon-filled prequels and sequels that I guess retroactively made Sons of Liberty a better product, with many of its themes and elements making more sense in 2011 than they did in 2001. That's besides the point though. What is the point is that all throughout 2000 and 2001, fans were excited to see the second, but really fourth chapter in the Solid Snake saga. Metal Gear Solid had a huge cliffhanger at the end, with there really being a third clone of Big Boss, who just so happened to be the President of the United States, George Sears. There was even a VHS tape sold with the trailer, and the Hideo Kojima game Zone of the Enders contained a demo for Metal Gear Solid 2. So upon release on November 12, 2001, alongside so many other classic games that kicked off the PS2's successful career, such as Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy and Final Fantasy X, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty received near perfect scores across the board, with almost 7 million copies sold on the standard edition alone, not counting the Substance version, which was an enhanced version of MGS2 containing extra features that we'll discuss later in the video. Well, with the exception of the skating minigame, but feck it wasn't on the HD version, which is pretty much MGS2 Substance in all other aspects.
But despite the high scores from professional critics, the players from what I've heard on YouTube when it came to people who witnessed its release, they all had similar reactions to the new character. You see, the Tanker chapter was all we knew from the advertising. Everyone thought they'd be playing as Snake because that's what the box art told us. That's what the commercials told us. Heck, that's what even the back of the box told us. I know it's foolish to have expectations before delving into something like a story-rich game, but can you honestly blame people for having such expectations? Everyone played the Tanker chapter as Solid Snake, learning the general mechanics of the game, and after a cutscene we won't get into until later, they're introduced to this new character, so they thought, alright, they play as a character, but until a certain point, it sinks in that they'll be playing as this less cool character for the rest of the game, and not as Solid Snake. Jay and I don't hold these reservations against the game, nor say it detracts from the overall quality of the game, but we didn't expose ourselves to the marketing before its release, as I was just making crayon drawings at the time, and Jay wasn't even housebroken.
Wait, what the hell?
We didn't even play this game until the HD re-release was well out into our late teens.
With that firmly established, this will be a top-to-bottom analysis of Metal Gear Solid 2 without these biases in mind, as we tell you why we both believe it to be the superior game to the original Metal Gear Solid. With all that out of the way, let's start with the story.
Anyways, I just want to show off that clip. The rest of the video is in the link in the description below. Be sure to give Jay of Jay's Reviews a subscription if you really enjoyed the video. He has many more videos to come just like that. And I'm looking forward to his thoughts on Metal Gear Solid 3. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all for being patient with me, because I did have to take out a lot of time on this channel to work on that project, but I'd say it's worth it. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and remember to stay awesome!